Do you like your job? What is it about your job that you like? What is it that maybe you dislike about your job? How does it affect your performance? Is it your boss, your coworkers, or the job itself? Or maybe it's you. Job satisfaction is very important to achieving organizational behavior goals. It can be affected by a lot of different factors. It can affect your performance and the value you provide to your customers and to the owners. Personality, perception, attitudes all affect how we act. They affect how we evaluate things, how we feel about them, and based on that, what we do or how we behave. Are you a glass half full or half empty person? People who are more positive tend to feel more positive about things, evaluate things more positively, and basically go through life a little happier. Conversely, negative people do just the opposite. There's something called negative affectivity, and that means for those folks, the glass isn't just half empty, it's all the way empty. You probably have known some of these folks in the workplace. In my other life as a legal administrator, I used to have a legal secretary who was the personification of negative affectivity. She would show up at my door just about every morning. "Do you have a minute?" I'd say to myself, "Gosh, really? Again?" And she would spew off all sorts of negative things about her coworkers, her boss, and how miserable the place was to work, leading me to always want to say, the door is right behind you. If you really want to leave, please go ahead. But people who are negative tend to get that attitude permeating throughout the organization. So positivity fills the air. Positivity is what we want to encourage in the workplace. Our values obviously affect our job satisfaction. People are satisfied when the job provides the things that are valuable to them. You ask yourself, what is it that I want to get from my job? Things that affect satisfaction are pay, promotional opportunities, the boss, coworkers, the work itself, helping others, prestige, power, comfort, safety, and the organization's corporate responsibility. There's something called value percept theory, and it says that job satisfaction depends on whether you perceive that the job supplies the things that you value and how important are those. There's a reverse formula for this that says dissatisfaction equals the value that you want minus the value that you have times that value's importance. The difference in what you have compared to what you want can lead to dissatisfaction, and the more important it is, the more dramatically that influences your performance and how your perception of that value is. Some of the major job attitudes include job satisfaction. How happy are you with your job? Job involvement. We identify psychologically with our job, and so our performance is kind of a measure of our self-worth. Organizational commitment, we talked about that last week. Affective is emotion-based, continuance is cost-based, and normative is obligation-based. And the perceived organizational support. Do you believe that the organization supports you and cares? Pay is an important factor, obviously. Is it what you think you deserve for the job that you do, and does it provide you with adequate security? Promotional opportunities, obviously, are important. These provide personal growth, more responsibility, more money, higher prestige. Liking your boss. Is he or she competent? Is he or she polite? Are they a good communicator? Can he or she help you attain the things that are valuable to you? Most importantly, is he or she likable? Do you like your coworkers? Are they smart, responsible, helpful, fun, interesting? Can they help you do your job better? Do you like being around them? And corporate social responsibility. What does the organization do for society, and how do you feel about that? Most importantly, do you like the work itself? In the 1950s and 60s, researchers began focusing on this in part based on something called the scientific management perspective. They wanted to look at the focus, and they looked at efficiency and narrowing job focus so there could be people doing more in less time. The goal, of course, was to improve profitability. It had the opposite effect. Boring jobs reduced job satisfaction and increased absenteeism and turnover, thereby reducing profits. So what makes a task, which includes service tasks, more interesting? Well, research shows there are three critical psychological states. Meaningfulness of the work is important. Are you doing something worthwhile? What's the responsibility that you have for the outcomes? Do you feel you're responsible in some degree for the results? And what are your knowledge of the results? Do you find out how well you did? When I worked in law firms, We would see lawyers, paralegals working on things for a case. The more they were able to work on things that weren't just a piecemeal part of the case, the more interesting the work became because there was more variety and more challenge. When they got a chance to go to court and actually see the partner arguing the case or see him argue the motion and see how it turned out, that helped them to get the knowledge of the results of what their work was, and it made them feel good. So what kind of tasks achieve these states? Well, job characteristics theory identifies 5 core characteristics. Variety, the number of different activities requiring different skills, different talents. Identity, the degree of responsibility that you have for the complete, the whole, the identifiable piece of work. Again, a lawyer who's maybe working on a motion isn't working on a part of it, might be working on the whole thing. Somebody who's working in a surgical room may have more responsibilities, which makes the job more interesting. The significance, what impact does it have on other people's lives? And the autonomy, the degree of independence and discretion that you have. And finally, the feedback. The degree the job itself provides info on how you're doing. Not how your boss tells you you're doing, not how your performance evaluation says you're doing, how the job itself says you're doing. So, for example, with a motion that a lawyer is arguing in court, gets a successful verdict, that tells him he or she did a good job. Very important. Value percept theory that I explained earlier can be applied to each of these core characteristics. Again, that's value that you want minus the value you have times the importance of that value to you. Your feelings about jobs can change throughout the day depending upon what happens. If something goes right, well, then you may feel better about your job that day. If something goes terribly wrong, you may feel bad about your job that day. Your emotions or moods throughout the day can affect your job satisfaction. And we're talking here really about the overall general feeling that you have for your job. So it's not just these little day in, day out type things that might affect it, but how do you overall feel about your job? So who cares if employees are happy? Well, owners need to be concerned about that. The greater job satisfaction that an employee has, the better job performance and organizational commitment that employee is going to have. Studies have shown that when an employee likes the job, it's going to foster creativity, improve problem solving and decision making. It'll lead to good citizenship behavior, which we talked about a little bit last week. And it improves retention and reducing turnover by creating effective commitment, which is basically where somebody likes what they do, they like the environment, they like the people they work with. Basically, it all ends up leading to better results for the customers and thereby improves profits. What about workers who aren't happy? Well, they check out, basically. They have counterproductive behavior. There's something called social loafing. They surf the net. They may wander around, talk to other employees, start taking longer breaks, maybe start calling in sick. Things kind of work in stages that way, where they get more and more absent from the job, even if it's only mentally. They neglect their responsibilities. They may end up harassing or bullying others, sort of like that negative affectivity person I told you about earlier, tended to love to try to bully other people and take out her bad attitude on them. And ultimately, if you're lucky, they may leave. Of course, that doesn't help you with your retention, and it doesn't help you with keeping good employees, but this isn't a good employee, somebody who's unhappy and doing things that are disrupting the workplace. So how do we measure job satisfaction? Talk to employees, walk around, get out there and mingle with the people, find out what's going on. Set up focus groups that can discuss job satisfaction. Conduct surveys. You can use your own or you can use existing ones. For example, there's something called the Job Descriptive Index, which has a companion job in general scale that measures job satisfaction. These are really the most accurate and effective ways because they're anonymous. So in walking around, people may not tell you how they feel. If they've got a good rapport with you, they may. But if they don't, or if they feel a little bit shaky or they have something negative, they may not feel comfortable saying it. If it's an anonymous survey, they will. If it's repeated over time, you can notice whether there are trends that are developing. And it can also show the effects of major job changes if you've got a survey before and a survey afterwards to see how that change has affected people's attitudes. And then most importantly, follow through on what you learn. If there are suggestions, deal with them, make things happen. If for some reason you can't implement certain changes that maybe are being recommended, talk with people about it. Let them know why that change can't be implemented. If you don't do those types of things, it's meaningless. People think, well, gee, I'm filling out this survey, but they're not paying any attention to it. So job satisfaction is very important. You want to make sure your employees are happy. You want to make sure that they have the tools that they need, that they feel secure. And by making that happen, you will find that they will produce a better job, they'll be more committed to the organization, and you'll create more value through what they do for your customers and your other stakeholders.